Interestingly, it is a story of waking up. And I was thinking this morning when I read it, reading a child a story, go to sleep. This is similar, but this story is for waking up, not for putting asleep. But in a way, they're the same, because what it is that a parent is doing with a child when they read them a story, they're unhinging them from their waking reality. Waking, I don't mean wake up. Waking, I mean the constant stimulus of the senses which create a reality. I am in this world. Me and my world, me and my family, me and my work, me and my people, me and my loneliness, me and my problems, me and my desires, me and my glories, me and my sadness, me and this. That's the waking dimension. That whole realm that happens from early morning till when we go to sleep at night. The waking state of experiencing, of sensing, of doing, of thinking and feeling. Also some imaginations in there. Memories also are in there. Assumptions. So many assumptions are in there also. So it's not dissimilar to reading a child a bedtime story, but in this satsang, or in satsang in general, the story, the wisdom teachings are for waking us up out of this waking state. So this is Vashisht, who is the guru of Ram, the great epic of the Ramayan. Like all good epics, it was the great battle between ignorance, which means suffering, and enlightenment, which means freedom from suffering. The great epic that Ram was able to inspire his people to move out of ignorance into the light, because he himself became enlightened. He became enlightened because he listened to the teachings of Vashisht. So this is Vashisht, who spoke to Ram, who's speaking to us. Vashisht said, whatever creation or reality existed in the past appeared real for those who lived in that reality. But now that reality does not exist. Whatever creation or reality existed in the past appeared real for those who lived in that reality, but now that reality does not exist. It is a story that we call history. It is a story we call history. But it is not real for us in the same way as is the present situation. Our history is not existing now, and now, and now, and now, and now. History is existing in the reality of something past. So it cannot be now. So we as satsangis are practicing how to just be here now and allow all that history to subside. That story. Let that story subside so we can hear this story. If the past reality were to become real for us now, how could we live in the present? What is meaning living in the past? Living with memory. Living with memory. And that's the tendency of memory. It just keeps repeating. It just rounds and rounds and rounds. As does imagination into the future. It rounds and rounds and rounds. That's its nature. It's not our fault. And we fault ourselves that we cannot find the brakes to it. How do we now find our way out of this rounding? Because the rounding and rounding of this repetitive story, whether the story is projecting in past events or imagining future events, the story we know well keeps rounding. And there is a kind of maddening feeling in that. Do you agree? Maddening in the sense, helplessness. Where are the breaks to the story? I need a break from the story. I need a break from feeling constantly judging myself to the past story, most commonly unfavorably, and imagining myself as a contorted figure, a perfect person in the future story. Kind of hopeless desire that we set ourselves up so that we can then see ourselves in the past as another opportunity for failure. It's amazing if we start to see it like this. How do we get out of this? Or how do we know this in such a way that we are not rounding with it? To realize that everything comes and goes, that everything changes, but being continues, being here with a capital B, but being continues, is to understand that the changing world is just like creation of the dream. Changing world is just like the creation of a dream. How do we know this? We have to realize, and that comes with some practice, some awareness, everything comes and goes, everything is of change, but being continues, unchanging, ever present. It is not in past, it is not in future. This practice, this awareness that we can really go deep into, is to understand that the changing world is like the creation of a dream. When you wake up to the truth, and this awake means to awaken, to be enlightened. When you are enlightened of this truth, when you wake up to this truth, that what we have called the world is a dream, then the world, or what we have called the world, appears to be just like the illusion of a dream when you wake up. So often, I've stopped doing it so much now because I used to bore Laurie and Mayank to bits, coming out in the morning and telling them my dream. Laurie had to tell me quite directly, as probably did Mayank, your dreams may be interesting to you, but not so interesting to us. What is interesting about when you wake up from a dream is that you can tell that story of the dream either with some humor or with some kind of fascination. Look what happened in that dream. Isn't that fascinating that it's not real? And in that moment it appeared real. What are we really saying? Look how free I am now that I'm not trapped in the dream state. Look how real it appeared then and how hilarious we are finding it, or how ludicrous we are finding it now. Why do we want to talk about our dreams? Or why do we even observe the phenomena of waking up from dream? But something feels a bit lighter to come out of that and know that it wasn't really true. It's a kind of lightness. I always feel the absurdity of it. For example, I often, most often, dream that I'm in a location that I have never actually been to in my life. Like, that's fascinating to me, not I know to others, but in terms of it's fascinating in that how can something be created and it has no substance? Meaning I have not really been to that place. But there's always a little bit of a merge between East and West, which have been my experiences. It's this kind of somewhat looks like the West, somehow looks like the East, and it's its own creation. And it's fascinating, only to me, I know, but meaning, look how something can be created that has no substance, has no reality. And when you realize that what you have been, or the experience in your dream that made that place real, there was a struggle in there somehow. And very often in that environment or in that landscape that I dream, I'm with Swamiji, my guru, Sham, and I'm trying somehow to manage the situation and failing terribly. I'm somehow struggling in that situation. Just as we struggle in our waking state, we take that struggle also into our dream. The relief is when we wake up from the dream, oh, it's not real. I'm not actually responsible for taking Sham to a wrong location when the satsang was actually at another location or something like that. It doesn't burden me now. The responsibility is not weighing on me now. Phew. But now I'm entering into this waking state and I'm going to take on all the burdens and responsibilities with more seriousness. But this world is real. This is a real thing. I always find it fascinating how our senses, and you can watch many, many scientific experiments that show this, how our senses bring together a sense of reality that is not really how it is. But the work of the senses and their job or their function is to create an image of something which actually is not there. For example, it feels like our little Wisdom of Meditation Center is always on this little square of land. And the reality is that this position is spinning at who knows how many thousands of kilometers per hour this earth rock spins. Incredible force. That we are actually moving faster than we could drive. And yet the senses give a perception that we are still. That's the job. How powerful that is. Also, it appears that we are standing on earth. But actually, us in New Zealand, we are hanging upside down by our feet. How crazy is that? It feels like my head is going up into the sky. I'm dangling down into sky. But my senses make a world. Even the idea of time and space, as if we are in this time. And last night when Emma was having satsang with John, she was at that place at that time. Now Emma is here in this place at that time. Both satsangs are talking about the world. Who's to say that there is any separation between the two? Only time and space has created the appearance of that because of our waking state senses, has made a division between this location in this time, talking about the unreality of the world, and that time in that location, talking about the reality of the world. Only our senses, which are geared towards time, have created that division. And time again, or again and again, we notice there is no separation. How is this now helpful for us to realize that this image of a world has been created? Find out at the end of the story. When you wake up to this truth, then the world appears to be just like the illusion of the dream when you wake up. The waking state of reality is just another state of consciousness like the dream state. But most people's conviction is that the world in the waking state is the only true reality. And it is convincing. And I don't mean just in big philosophical terms or this maybe quantum terms about the world, but just your world, let's say your family situation, your relationship with your spouse, with your partner, with your children. It really can seem real that that argument you had with them last night, they're wrong and I'm right. Or maybe another time that, I'm made to feel wrong all the time. Why am I like this? It's creating a world. I don't mean just this rock that we stand on. Where are we creating a reality to be true that is based on this relative position of the senses and the waking state mind? Is it really true that because of some opinion, someone can be right or wrong? Is there any truth in rights and wrongs? We have created a sense of right and wrong as a society, and necessarily so that we don't have an unsafe environment to live in. We need that. We need to tell children it's wrong to take a rock and smash your little sister in the head with it. And we have to have the sense of rights and wrongs in order to live together. It's wrong to kill someone else. It's wrong to harm someone else. It's wrong to take something from someone that's not yours. And all those basic things that human beings needed to be told. 10 commandments were relevant for that time. Jesus had to say, do not steal, do not murder, do not kill, do not covet, because people were living in a more lawless land at that time. And if we didn't have rules, we would also be living in a lawless environment. I'm always amazed at a time of crisis, like a flood or an earthquake. You'll get two types of people. One who want to help. And Joe might be more aware of this. Very often in times of war, people's worst instincts come out and they exploit the situation terribly. We won't go too much into that, but we need these laws because you'll either get those who exploit or you'll get those who try and help. But it's not a given that everyone tries to help at a time of crisis. Most people's conviction is that the world in the waking state is the only true reality. That's why I asked you at the beginning, just hear this. Don't think, was it right, is it wrong? Rights and wrongs are not applicable right now. Look at the convincing nature of the senses and of the mind that is the governing power of all those senses, bringing it all together to make sense of it all. It's created a reality that we call the world. Why, if we have now created a world of our own beingness, why do we suffer in it? The power of this belief, and now I can now, with the context of what we have talked, say illusion. The power of this belief or illusion is much stronger than the belief in the dream. It's easy to see that the dream is not real. It requires so much more power to know that this waking Rebecca person is also not as she thinks it, real in time and space, real in terms of rights and wrongs and her doing great and small. It is not that appears. So even though this waking state is a challenge to be confronted, that it is maybe illusory, what is that one single event that every single human beings are going to be confronted with that brings this into a question? Is my world real? Death. Exactly. Even the thought of death or the death of a loved one, it doesn't need to be one's own death, but just the idea that things end, even if it's not death of the body, death of a love affair, death of pride, death of accomplishment. So the power of this belief or illusion of this waking state is much stronger than the belief in the dream. But when a person is about to give up their body, the illusion and fleeting nature of the waking state and all its history becomes blatantly clear. We have to bring ourselves to that point, that meditation is seeing beyond the limitation of your little waking history. You are sitting now in meditation not to control your thoughts or feel better or have an experience or feel yourself bathed in light, however wonderful that may be, but that's not your intention, then you have the opportunity to have a very blatantly clear revelation as to what is illusory. Where is your history really, other than in your own making? Meditation is that confrontation of death, meaning it's not making real that which is illusory. It is truly not easy to wake up from the conviction in the waking state reality and the belief that it will always be in existence. It's not easy to do that. That's why you'll see older people frightened and worried and seemingly obsessing over small things. They're looking for a little anchor. But this little me that has been 80, 90 years reinforced is slipping away. Where's my anchor? Where's the things that tell me it is true? My history is slipping. And there is a blatantly sobering confrontation that maybe even your history was insignificant. It's intense to swallow. But the yogi understands. Vashisht is speaking to Ram, a great yogi. It means the great thinker, more than great, even great thinker doesn't describe it. It means the observer, the pure, unprejudiced observer that Emma and Olivier talked about at the beginning of the satsang. They engaged a power to observe and not take that which is ordinarily seen to be true. They decided not to present it as the truth. And they said, I'm here. Emma said, I'm not sure, but actually she's quite sure. She's quite sure of what is not. And that is the great power of the yogi. She sat there and she suspended her belief in this waking reality. That's the yogi. The one who can inquire free from prejudice, free from needing to clutch and hold these small assumptions about ourselves and our world. A yogi understands that the creator of all that is created cannot itself be something that is created and dies like the body does. I'll read that a few times. That's a lot to digest. A yogi understands. The meditator understands. The sincere, unprejudiced inquirer, the meditator understands that the creator of all that is created cannot itself be something that is created and dies like the body does. What is that which we observe of creation? It's always in a process of birth and death, in a cycle, constantly moving through time in this progression. Birth, increasing, decreasing, death. Birth, increasing, decreasing, death. Every aspect of creation is in this process. The creator of all that is created means the power that does that thing, birth, increasing, decreasing, and death. What does that? What power is that? That itself is not created and therefore does not die as the body dies, as the creation dies. Knowing that there is something that does not die, so it is not illusory by nature, the yogis strive to be established in the knowledge of this truth. I would say, not the word strive, yogis meditate in this direction towards what does not die, what does not change, what is not of creation, what is not of time, what is not of difference. The yogis meditate in that direction to be established in the knowledge of this truth, what does not die, what is amaram, what cannot be divided between wisdom of meditation and Strathine, between Emma and Shikhaa, between me and it, between you and the world. And the word in Sanskrit, amaram, is very powerful. It is that which has not been created. I'll read that last paragraph, and I appreciate your patience. And many of you are in meditation, and that's perfect to really absorb. A yogi understands that the creator of all that is created cannot itself be that which is created and dies like the body does. Knowing that there is something that does not die, so it is illusory by nature, yogis strive to be established in the knowledge of this truth. One who comes to identify as the power of creation and not the creation has woken up. Another way Olivia expressed the same revelation, the same awakening. One who has come to identify as the power of the observer and not what is observed has woken up. One who has come to identify as the power of consciousness and not what we are conscious of has woken up. And therefore they know they, meaning their true self, will not die with the death of this body. Then Vashisht ends this chapter speaking about himself in a very tender and beautiful way. Gurus like me, as we say the word guru, the guru is embodying these teachings. There is one driving force through this revelation. I can't even say teachings, it is a revelation. This revelation is the driving force that helps others wake up from the changing illusion and see their true eternal self. Then Vashisht speaks about himself. Since I have come out of the pain of being lost, I only wish for others to find the happiness that comes from realizing their true self. The one who speaks this revelation, who has the desire to share this revelation, is the one who has come out of the pain of being lost. Beautiful is that. It's not by way of achievement. It is that incredible humility to say, wow, I was lost in this waking dimension that had me spinning around all my history, spinning, and the helplessness that I felt. Get out of it. And then somehow you find a way. And we'll take some time, meditation. Meditation is the way. And we needed some instruction to find that way. And so it says, become very acutely aware that you, as that observer, as that creator, as that constant life force, you are not changing with the changing creations of memories, creations of imaginations, creations of desires, creations of expectations. Practice presence of your own self. Call it observer, creator, your consciousness, or give it no name at all. But it is this ever-present yourself. It is Amaram. And although this mind that's constantly telling the story, continues for some time, it has to continue because it is needed. But we can make it insignificant right now. Don't put your attention there right now. Bring your attention back to yourself. Not only this body self, the self that is finer than any physical body, which means any body that can be sensed. Just as the eyes, the physical eyes, are the vehicle for seeing, but the power that sees is more subtle than the eyeball. That the power of sound is so subtle and more subtle than the physical apparatus of hearing. So too, you, so magnificently subtle, as pure presence, Amaram. Can we wake up to it? Can we wake up out of our history, out of the kind of obsession with describing ourselves as bodies, and what the bodies did, and how the bodies feel, and what the bodies should do? Can we just be here in silence? Pure presence. I cannot find any location of me, or form of me, or time that I wasn't, or time that I will not be. I need no description, but I exist pure. I exist Amaram. I exist Madhuram. Bringing the attention to this is the way we wake up out of our little confined waking reality that has confined us, defined us, terrified us, made us small and unkind to ourselves. Wake up. I am ever present, Amaram, blissful and free, Madhuram, vast and infinite, Amaram, Madhuram.